With the release of Monster Hunter World and hearing so many horror stories about which beasts cause the most amount of hurt, we decided to rank the monsters in order of difficulty. Please note that this is our opinion about the difficulty, and given how dynamic the game is, we are sure your list won't match ours, so please keep this in mind while watching this video. Without further ado, let's take a look at Monster Hunter World's bosses ranked from easiest to hardest. GREATJAGRAS. When you're starting Monster Hunter World, you need a fairly simple monster to fight. Cue GREATJAGRAS, who, despite eating other monsters whole, is easy to telegraph. Simply dodge his claws and tail, be mindful of when he charges, and keep attacking. This boss will go down sooner than you think. Zorah Magdaros. First encounter. There may be an Elder Dragon at this position, but the first phase with Zorah Magdaros isn't tough. After firing a number of cannons at it, you'll be transported on its back where you must destroy some magma cores. Your allies will help in exposing the giant core on its head. Xeno'jiiva will appear at one point, and while you can fight him, the other hunters will eventually help repel him. Pukei-Pukei. Like a bird mixed with an iguana, this boss combines recent food eaten with poison and launches it as projectiles. You also have to be careful of its large tongue that can also hit you. As a whole though, this boss is easy to read and can be sidestepped without much difficulty. Don't worry when it goes airborne, just keep away from its front and you'll be fine. Kulu-Ya-Ku. And now we move on to an actual bird-type monster. He's not very tough and does little damage, but watch out when he's got a rock in his hands. This means he'll start jumping on you like an Italian plumber on shrooms. A good couple of hits will disarm this boss and you can proceed with the murder. Tzitzi-Ya-Ku. This boss looks threatening, especially in his resemblance to GREATJAGRAS from previous Monster Hunter titles. His slashes and jumping attacks are fairly easy to telegraph, but the main calling card is his flash. He will expand the fins on his head to blind you, thus allowing for continuous attacks. Just stay to his side and avoid his jump attacks to survive. Girros. Though not especially difficult, this boss presents an interesting trial. Not only does he sling mud at you, but it's easy to get stuck in this mud when it's just lying around. Its ability to quickly navigate the swamps of Wildspire Waste also becomes annoying, especially when he jumps in the air and dives down. The fight will go to more solid land eventually, so keep it up for the win. Barroth. From the second you first meet him, it's very obvious that Barroth is not screwing around. His hide is covered not only with scales but hard mud that must be broken down. Bring some water element equipment to help break the mud, while also avoiding his charge attacks and the mud he throws on the ground, because just like Girros, it's easy to get stuck in. Attack Barroth in his vulnerable spots before he rolls around and gains more mud. You can also take the chance to slice off his tail. Paolumu. Part puffball, all giant bat, this boss will inflate himself and fly above you after taking a few hits, dive bombing at select intervals for moderate damage. Use a weapon with decent reach, or the insect glaive, which enables you to easily get into the air, and be careful around his ballooned form. Great Girros. The alpha of the Girros, Great Girros possesses electric fangs and can fire venomous volleys at you. Both are capable of causing paralysis, so either break his fangs or avoid these attacks and keep attacking from the side. A few smaller Girros may show up to assist him, but kill a few and they'll eventually retreat. Keep this up for the kill. KIRIN. This unicorn-like Elder Dragon is probably the smallest in its classification. That being said, even at a lower rank, you shouldn't underestimate it. Its modus operandi is a powerful thunder attack that can be summoned from on high. It's also capable of paralyzing you with lightning after evoking Thunderblight, so bring Nullberries and a cleanser booster for removing Thunderblight. Exercise caution when it becomes enraged, its mane will glow, causing your weapons to bounce off. Counteract this with high Elder Seal weapons to eventually kill KIRIN. Zorah Magdaros, second encounter. The second phase of this boss is slightly tougher than the first, even though the mechanics are roughly the same. Destroy magma cores, push Xeno'jiiva away, attack Zorah's head, fire cannons, etc. The cannons part requires reorienting and firing them at the right time to ensure all shots hit, and you need to activate the Dragonator to ultimately deal large amounts of damage. Tobi-Kadachi. As a half-squirrel, half-snake thing, this boss is all kinds of annoying. Moving fast and attacking with leaps and slams, he generates electricity while climbing up on the trees around you. This adds to his damage further, as he has a chance to inflict Thunderblight, which makes you more susceptible to paralysis from other electric attacks. Avoid its jumping attack whenever possible, and keep plinking away. Also try to lure it towards an Anjanath for chances at a turf war and some free damage. Anjanath. Speaking of which, the T-Rex-esque Anjanath is your next foe, and he's a doozy. It can charge at you, whips its snout around, smash you with its tail, jump on you, and even breathe fire. Keep between his hind legs to avoid the majority of attacks and dodge whenever he makes a leap. The key is cutting his tail off first and then going for his head whenever he gets knocked down. Bring your best gear for this fight to survive his most dangerous attacks. Legiana. We hope you've become more comfortable with jumping attacks because this boss will put you to the test. This flying monster not only fires ice in front but also covers itself in ice while attacking. Both these attacks have a chance to inflict Ice Blight if you're not careful. Thunder element attacks are useful, but it certainly helps to stay airborne while attacking. Once again, the Insect Glaive is incredibly useful here. Radobon. Radobon's armor is essentially the bones of dead monsters that it rolls in around the Rotten Veil. As such, it will use rolling attacks to assault you with its hide. Chip away at the armor, especially when Radobon has a chance to stumble after a rolling attack, even if your attacks bounce off certain parts. Be careful of being put to sleep and try cutting off Radobon's tail as well to minimize some of the damage it deals from behind. Rathian. Rathian is a flying monster and the female counterpart to Rathalos. When she isn't charging at you, Rathian will backflip and hit you with her tail, inflicting poison damage. At times, she'll also breathe fire, but for the most part, Rathian is on the ground, constantly annoying you with her poison. Sever her tail as soon as possible and keep some poison resistance armor handy. Attack Rathian's wings and head to deal the most damage. Diablos. Remember when we said Anjanath was a doozy? Well, he's the prom queen compared to Diablos. This horned wyvern will charge at you constantly, dealing tons of damage if he connects. Attacking from behind is tough due to his tail. However, Diablos' most annoying tactic is burrowing underground and emerging to attack you. Avoiding his surprise attack is crucial, especially when fighting him near the sandfalls underground, since he can emerge from them. A good place to attack is between his legs, but you can also use flash bombs when Diablos is burrowing since they force him to emerge when timed right. Black Diablos. The fun doesn't stop with Diablos though, as you encounter a Black Diablos later. This female version of Diablos has many of the same attacks but can also deal an absurd amount of damage. Attack from between the legs and be careful of her burrowing, as she'll emerge with a jumping attack as well. Destroy her tail and horns, and keep moving even after she's completed a charge since she'll continue to track you. Rathalos. Unlike Rathian, Rathalos is airborne for a fair amount of this fight, so use a weapon that allows you to attack in midair easily. Jumping off ledges and hills for attacks is also useful. Rathalos will use fireballs and attack with his poison, even going as far as lifting you up and throwing you down. Target his wings and head when he's grounded, but go for his tail when he's flying since it will be easier to access on the ground. Odogaron. If you think you've fought quick monsters till now, then this boss easily outclasses them. This vicious-looking fanged wyvern is incredibly agile and capable of attacking in multiple directions. When enraged, it can inflict bleed damage with his fangs and claws. Later on, you might fight him in an area filled with effluvium, which decreases your health steadily. Attacking him when he's stalking you, avoiding his combos, and severing his tail are the best ways to fight him. Make no mistake though, he is tough. Pink Rathian. Remember the normal Rathian? Imagine a much more vicious version with a horizontal tail swipe in addition to the backflip. Now add more fireballs that travel faster, harden portions of its hide that your weapons will bounce off, and the same annoying poison tail. That's the Pink Rathian, which attacks way more frequently and never lets up. Keep in mind the differences between this and the normal Rathian. Stay between its legs when attacking and don't stop moving. Uragaan. Much like Radobon, Uragaan loves to roll around and possesses tough armor on the outside. The difference is that Radobon's armor is a lot stronger, and while rolling, he'll drop magma cores that can be detonated by slamming his jaw to the ground. So in addition to attacking Uragaan and avoiding his attacks while chipping through his tough hide, you also need to be careful not to get blown up. At least his armor doesn't regenerate. Dodogama. This boss looks like a heavily armored GREATJAGRAS with a meaner looking jaw. His moveset is significantly upgraded though. Along with the charges and rolls, he will also fire magma saliva at you. He can also shoot missiles that can be directed onto you and ingest rock to increase his size. That increased size will then be used while he rolls and attacks. This boss isn't too tough to fight, but you can take quite a lot of damage if caught in its attacks. Lavasioth. Similar to Giratotus, This boss will swim around, jumping up and diving down on you to attack. There are several key differences though, like the fact that he does fire damage, is much tougher thanks to its hardened magma shell, and has to be fought in pools of lava. Cool Drink should help negate the environment's heat, and as long as you hit it when it exits the magma, its armor should still be soft enough to take damage. Regardless, stay away from its front to minimize damage. Ner-Gigante. You finally get to throw down with the big bad himself, and he doesn't disappoint. This boss has several frontal attacks, though his shoulder charge is a pretty nasty AoE attack. He also possesses spikes on his body, and they'll continually regenerate unless you break them. If they grow hard enough, your weapons will bounce off and he'll do more damage. Then there's his dive bomb attack, which can almost certainly one-hit kill you. Fortunately, if you avoid his dive bomb, all the spikes will have been shot out, offering a chance to hit him where it hurts. He'll eventually retreat to a less than ideal arena with stalactites that can fall on you. Suffice to say, this is a long, hard fight. Azure Rathalos. A tougher version of Rathalos, Azure Rathalos basically does a lot more damage with his claw attack and can stun you before using it. His fireballs are significantly bigger than before, and he's just more tenacious as a whole. You'll once again need a weapon that's good for mid-air fighting and have to continuously target his head and wings once he's grounded. Otherwise, attack his tail and focus on cutting it off. Basilgoose. Notice those little outgrowths on his body? Those are explosive scales that hurt bad if you're within proximity. This boss will fly overhead at times and drop these scales on you before dive bombing, so be prepared to run. Attacking his legs, carefully avoiding the scales, and also be wary of his charge attack. If possible, destroy the organs that help his explosive scales regenerate. That will make this fight much easier. Kushala Daora. As an Elder Dragon, this boss has a good many strengths. He uses wind to attack you, and his wings are made of metal. Mid-air fights are thus not a good idea unless you can break the wings. Otherwise, his attacks include channeling wind underneath to prevent you from attacking and setting tornadoes loose within the vicinity, which can stun lock you to death if you're caught between them. Finally, he can fire a blast of wind that's capable of one-shotting you. Learning his patterns and knowing when to engage is the only way to really beat this boss. Teostra. Teostra exists to quite literally make your life hell, if the enormous amounts of fire didn't give it away. Along with numerous flame attacks and lava jets, this boss will cover himself in fire when enraged, thus dealing fire damage if you even stand near him. This also has the effect of releasing explosive powder which can ignite. If that weren't enough, Teostra floats in the air and gathers a cloud of explosive powder together before firing it. This attack is also capable of one-hit killing you. Avoiding Teostra's fire attacks, striking from between its legs, and breaking his horns should win the day. Vaal Hazak. Null berries and a cleanser booster are your friends in this battle. This boss uses effluvium to reduce your overall health, and it's constantly oozing from his body. Use the above items when under its influence. Along with charging and swiping, he will fire a stream of effluvium that can damage you greatly at any one point, if you're in front of him. Of course, he can also use this attack if you're behind, and while it does less damage, it still bestows blight effects on you, which becomes a pain if he is enraged. This causes him to create a cloud of effluvium around him that will eat into your health if you suffer from blight. Xeno'jiiva. This boss is the final challenge you'll face in Monster Hunter World's storyline, and despite being easy to read, his attacks are extremely dangerous. He fires either beams or energy balls from his mouth, which deal copious amounts of damage. When he slams down on both front legs, it will cause an explosion several seconds later, which unsurprisingly will kill you. This attack is telegraphed though, so be prepared to hightail it when he rears back. Focus on his tail and front legs in the beginning, and then on his feet in the final phase. He'll be flying around a lot in the end, but eventually goes down if you're persistent. While you won't have to worry about continuous combos, this is a boss that will hit hard at all times. Avoiding the hardest hits and hacking away at its health bar is the key. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.